Okay, so the first thing is adding the numbers from 1 to 100. The idea, though, is that we want to do it quickly and efficiently. So although someone could easily grab a calculator and just start typing in 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5, we really want to do it more efficiently than that. So if you think about having all of the numbers, let's do, so if I wrote out, let's see. So if I wrote out, if I'm trying to add up the numbers from 1 to 100, if I wrote them all out like this, can you guys all see that other screen? The screen where the paper is? Okay. So make sure you can see the screen, even if you can't see my face. You don't really want to. Make sure you can see this one that has the paper on it. Okay, so if I write out the numbers from 1 to 100, I want you to think about this. How much is that if I just add the first and the last? Anybody? You can unmute yourselves if you want, or put it in the chat or whatever. Are you all a little tired today? Nobody wants to be back from spring break yet. I understand completely. Okay, so those two added together gives you 101. Okay, well, next question. What do those two numbers give you? Also 101. Yeah? What about these ones? It's always going to give you 101. Do you understand why? If nobody wants to unmute yourselves, I guess I'll tell you. The reason it's always 101 is because we're increasing the number down here the same amount that we're decreasing the number down here. So 1 and 100, but then when I send this one up to 2, this one goes down to 99. So then it stays the same sum. How many times is that going to happen? How many times can I add the two numbers together and get 101? Another chat question. How many times can I add two of the numbers together and their sums will be 101? If I had 1 through 100 all written out. Anybody? Callie says 50. What would 50 add up with to give you 101? I've unmuted you. Answer me. Well, I thought I unmuted you. Some of you didn't want to be unmuted, apparently. It's fine. Okay, I'm going to repeat the question. 50 plus what is 101?
51.
Thank you. Okay, so somewhere in the middle of all of this that's happening, somewhere in the middle here, we have the sum of 50 plus 51 that is also equal to 101. So there are 50 times that I got a sum of 101. You're all seeing the paper, yes? Paper is more important than the face. Okay, so 50 times that we got a sum of 101. Yeah? Everybody understand that? Okay, so this number 50 though, is it just random coincidence that it's 50, or does that have something to do with like what we were adding together? Where did 50 come from? Why are there 50 little pairs? Anybody? I unmuted you. Talk to me. Why are there 50 101s?
Because it only goes to 100.
Because there are how many terms? Look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There are 100 terms. So if I'm pairing them up, does it make sense that there's 50 pairs? Right? If you have a group of 100 people and you tell them to get a partner, how many partnerships should there be? 50, unless there's special people in your group that can't handle making a pair. Okay, so I'm going to show you something. I'm going to write this out a little bit different. I'm going to write this instead as 100 times 1 plus 100 divided by 2. Does that give me the same thing as this? Is that the same number as this? Yes? No? There's 101. And there's 100 divided by 2. Can you see that? Okay. So when we use the formula that I sent you guys on Canvas says that the sum of 100 terms, so we say S sub 100, so the sum of the first 100 terms is equal to 100, because that's how many terms there are, times the value of the first term plus the value of the very last term divided by 2. Okay, so there's two ways to look at this. You can look at it as I took all 100 numbers and I made 50 pairs that were each 101. There's another way to think about it. The other way to think about it is that if I make all of these numbers the exact same number, it's going to be really easy to figure out what they all add up to, right? Well, if you essentially average out the list, 101 divided by 2, okay, if I do that, that's how much each of these numbers needs to be so that they will add up to the same sum, but every single number will be the same. So 101 divided by 2, that's 50 and a half, yes? Does everybody agree? Okay, so if this, instead of being a 1, if this is 50.5, and this is 50.5, and this is 50.5, and this is 50.5, if every number is 50.5, then you multiply that by 100 to find what the sum is. Or you think of it this way, you pair them up. I like this way better. I like thinking of it as how many are there? If you divide that by 2, that's how many pairs there are. How big is each pair? So I have a question. Will it work if there is an odd number in your series? Can you add the first 25 terms instead? What do you guys think? Will that same formula work if you're only adding 25 terms? So if you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 20, 21, 22. Oh, I did too many. It's okay. I got excited. Okay, so if you have just 25 terms and you start pairing them up, what's that? You can't say it? You refuse? I didn't mute any of you. You just keep muting yourselves.
26.
Thank you. And then the next one is 2 plus 24. also 26.
26.
And 3 plus 23 is also 26. So how many 26s are we going to get? How many 26s are we going to have? Nobody knows. If there's 25 numbers, will there be 12 or 13?
Well, there will. 1.5.
Raise your hand if you think it's 12. Raise your hand if you think it's 13. Raise your hand if you think it's none of those. Me! It's 12 and a half, duh. There's 12 and a half 26s. How come?
Because there's an odd number.
Because there's an odd number, right? What do you do in a room of 25 when your teacher says get a partner? Well, if you're me, you just stand back and wait for everybody else to get a partner. So you get to do the project by yourself because I'm a loner and a loser and I don't like people. If you're somebody else, you scramble because you don't want to be that person, right? Maybe it's like a partner test and you're like, oh, heck no, I need that partner. Okay. But there's going to be somebody that's left out. But when you think about adding all the numbers together, let's look at this. There would be 26 pairs, or sorry, the sum is 26, 12 times. But then what's the number in the middle? So 12 got paired with 14, right? To make a 26. So what number is in the middle? 13. So this is kind of weird to look at, right? That does not look pretty. You see this? So there's 12 pairs of 26 plus an extra 13. Okay, well, let's just look at the formula. The formula says the sum of the first 25 terms would be the number of terms. Notice, do you see these two numbers? They always match. Makes the formula so easy. Then inside the parentheses, you do the value of the first number, which it's not always going to be 1, okay? The value of the first number sometimes is -72, randomness, okay? So just watch out for that. But this is the value of our first term of our series. Add to it the value of the last term of our series and divide that by 2. Is that basically going to give us the same thing as what we have up here? Well, here, take that. Sorry, I have very naughty animals and children usually, but it's just the animals this morning. Okay, so this is 25 times 26 over 2. Okay, so that's 25 times 13. Is that right? Is there anything wrong? Yes or no? What's wrong? Can anybody fix it? is this? 25 times 13. Should I get out my own calculator?
325.
325? What's this?
The same thing.
325. Are they the same? Yeah. Okay, so why? Well, this formula, again, is just taking the 25, the values of the terms, and figuring out what the value of each would have to be. So basically make everything a 13, times it by 25, you get 325. This one is considering the pairs. Make 12 pairs, they all add up to 26, and then add in that leftover guy. Okay, now this might not be, like, this is a good way to think about it, but you can always, always, always use this formula. Okay, so let me show you the formula. I know I put it on Canvas, but it was math type on Canvas, and it's not pretty. So the sum of the first n terms of any series is n, which is the number of terms that you're adding together, times the value of the first term, so we call that a sub 1, plus the value of the last term, which is a sub n, divided by 2. Okay? Or another way you could write this, if you wanted to write it just in words, you could say the sum is equal to the number of terms times the first plus the last divided by 2. That might be an easier way to think about it. So on your homework assignment, the first one that it asks you to do has this. Oh, somebody had a really good question the other day, or I guess it was today maybe. Does it matter, see how like right here they used I? Does it matter if you use I or N? The answer is no. Generally speaking, I don't know why, but generally speaking, if they're having you guys write the formula, your big ideas book is looking for you to use N. Usually because they say write the formula for the nth term or the sum of the n terms, something like that. But I swear every time they use summation notation, they use I. So I don't know, but it doesn't actually matter in the real world. It doesn't matter. Okay, so let's look at this. Now the tricky part for some people is just interpreting how we move from here to this formula. How did she get that again? Okay, sorry, naughty dog. Okay, it's fine. All right, so I have a question. When you look at this, can you tell me how many terms we're adding together? Did you say 20? Hi, Meg, did you have a question?
Yeah. Are we supposed to see the paper that you have?
Oh yeah, can you not?
No. So I'm like, I have no idea what you're saying.
Yes, I asked that several
You
times.
won't be able to see it.
Look at in the corner, you should be able to switch your view. Or you should be able to maybe scroll. If you like click on your screen, do you guys have it in the top right hand corner? So it says, maybe it says speaker view, or maybe it says grid view.
Gallery view, and then hover
Gallery
over the-
view.
You can hit the
Where?
pen up in the top left corner, and it'll keep the paper up.
Oh goodness.
What if I do that? Does that make it?
Yeah, now I see it.
Okay. I guess I should have done that from the beginning. Sorry, friends. That's called spotlighting the video. That's a new feature that I didn't know about. Okay, there we go. There's the paper. All right, so here's the formula. Okay, so S sub n equals n times the first term plus the last term divided by 2. How do we get from this notation to that formula? Can you tell me what n is?
20.
Good. Now, I have a question. Does that mean that this top number will always be n? No.
No.
That was a trick question. What if the bottom number was 5 and the top number was 20? Would n be 20? No, because if you're adding from the 5th term to the 20th term, then you're missing term 1, term 2, term 3, and term 4. So you're actually adding up 16 terms if you start on term 5. Okay? So how do you figure it out if that's not a 1?
What? What?
Like that.
I have done that.
Can you see this? The top number minus the bottom number plus 1. Does that work in this case? 20 minus 1 is 19. Add 1, we get 20. Okay, but it's, I mean, when we see a 1 right here, it's easy because we know, okay, if we're starting with the first term and ending with the 20th term, we're obviously adding together 20 terms. For some reason, our brains play tricks on us. Usually, if I have students see a 20 here and a 5 here, they put a 15 right here. Does that make sense to you, why they would do that? Because you just subtract them. But if you subtract them, you're not counting that 5th term. So you have to count them. Okay, so there's n. Can you tell me what a sub 1 would be?
I have a question.
Yeah, Courtney.
Did you say top number minus bottom number plus 1?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so now in the formula, the next thing we're going to need is a sub 1, which is just the notation for saying the value of the first term in the series. How do you find that?
Is that just 2 minus 3?
Yeah, you just plug in the 1. So we're going to use this formula that they gave us. We're going to use this formula. We're going to go 2 times 1, right? Because I is being replaced with 1, minus 3. So we'd have 2 minus 3, which is negative 1. So the first term of this series that we're going to add together, the first term is negative 1. Okay?
Okay.
What's the next thing I need to find? A what?
Last term? A sub 20.
This is the next thing I need to find is a sub n, which is going to be the last term. Okay, so we knew that n was 20. So a sub n for us is actually going to be a sub 20. So what do I do with the 20?
Just plug it into
Just plug it in. So I get 2 times 20 minus 3. What's 2 times 20?
40.
Minus 3. 37. Okay, so let me just show you really quick because we haven't really messed with this very much, but let me just show you what we know right now about this series, and then we'll finish the problem. But this series is the number -1 plus, I know that the next number in this series is a 1. Can anybody tell me how in the heck I know that the next number in the series would be a 1? What do we know about this formula right here? What does it look like?
You add 2 every time.
Yes, this is linear. Okay, so this whole thing is linear, which means that this is like the slope. This is how much it's changing by every term. So in last week, 2 weeks ago, whatever, we would call that 2 right there the common difference. It's how much we add to get from one term to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. Okay, common difference. So from -1, I add 2, and that gives me 1, so that's the next term in the series. What's the next one after that? What is it? What's the next number in this pattern?
3,
3. What's next?
5,
Good. 7, 9, 11.
9,
You guys
11.
follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And we keep going. And it seems that we're going to add them all together until we get to what number? What's the last one?
37,
37. Okay, so when I ask you to find this sum in this fancy, weird language, I'm asking you to do this. Add these all up. You are welcome to do them by hand, but at some point you won't want to do them by hand, because at some point they're going to have you add 99 terms or 118 terms or 3,000 terms. You don't want to do that by hand. Okay, so we're going to use the formula. So we have all these terms that we could just add together by hand, but instead we're going to take the n that we figured out, the a sub 1 that we figured out, the a sub 20 that we figured out, and we're going to put them in the formula. Okay, so to find all of these added together, that's the exact same thing as finding the sum of 20 terms, which would be n times the first term plus the last term divided by 2. Okay, so what's this? Just 36 divided by 2, 18. So I just need 20 times 18, which is what? 360, maybe? How's my math? Okay, what are you thinking? Do you need help? You guys are so quiet. Oh, maybe because you're all muted. Okay, what other questions do you have? I tried to unmute you, but some of you have muted yourselves, and I can't unmute you if you mute yourself. What questions? Anybody?
If the difference is negative, will the answer just be a negative number?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, unless, because sometimes like the difference is negative, but they started so big that you're still adding together a bunch of positive numbers. But yeah, if the common difference is negative, then it just means that those numbers are getting smaller. So yeah, there's a very good chance that your sum could be a negative number. Good question. Others? So I don't know if you guys have looked at the assignment at all, but on your, I think your 7th question, It changes things up a little bit. Have you guys looked at it at all?
Yeah, I was really confused. Can you kind of like, show me?
Should we do number 7?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so on
Yes.
number 7, it wants us to find the sum. Why is this on the screen? Okay, sum of sum of the first 19 terms. Okay, so the sequence, though, they don't give it to you in that fancy summation notation. They actually write it out for you. Okay, so in order to use the formula, and the formula makes life easier, agreed? Okay, here, okay, so I guess you don't have to agree with me yet. Let me convince you. You could write out all 19 terms of this sequence, then add them together. Okay, so you could find the pattern, write them all out. Right now they've given us 4. We would then have to figure out the other 15. If you want to do it that way, you are always more than welcome to do it that way. Okay, but at some point, maybe on a quiz, maybe on a test, who knows, at some point, I might ask you to add 500 terms together. Do you want to write those all out? No, that's ridiculous, okay? So instead of writing them all out, I'm just gonna ask myself, is there any way I could fill in, oops, could I fill in those blanks? So I know I'm adding the first 19 terms. So that number is a 19. It got squished because I almost forgot about it. But if I could just figure out these 2 things, then I can use the formula and I don't have to do it the long way.
Wouldn't the first term is of 1 be 9?
Yep. Okay, so now we're here. 19, 9. The 19th term divided by 2. So the only thing I need to figure out right now is what?
Is of 19.
The 19th term. But can I tell you something? If you're just going to keep writing out this pattern to figure out the 19th term, then you might as well just do it the other way. You might as well do it the long way. Okay? If in order to figure out the 19th term, you need to figure out the 5th, the 6th, the 7th, the 8th, the 9th, the 10th. If you need to do that, then you might as well just add them all up. Okay? Because to figure it out that way and then to plug it in the formula is kind of a waste of time. So I have a question. Is there a different way for you to figure that out? Yep, there is. Okay, so let's remember this formula. Oh, what am I doing? Sorry. That's an A. What does this say? That the nth term, so any term I want to find, is equal to the first term plus the common difference n minus 1 times. We talked about this, I think, in the last time we zoomed. Okay, so it's the first term, but if I'm trying to find the second term, I'm just going to add d 1 time. So 2 minus 1 times, or just 1 time. Okay, so if I want the 19th term, all I got to do is take the first term and add, oh, but I need to know d. Can somebody look at the pattern up here and tell me what d is? How do I get from 9 to 2? No screen. And from 2 to -5. And from -5 to -12. What's the answer? What's D? Subtract 7. So D is -7. So I'm going to take 9 and I'm going to add -7. How many times?
19.
So this would be 19 minus 1. So I'm really adding it 18 times. Does it make sense that to get to the 19th term, you would add it 18 times?
Yeah.
Yeah? Like London is having her 16th birthday on Saturday. That makes me feel very old. Okay, but she had, like, how many birthdays has she had compared to how many full years has she lived? Like it's because we start at 0, it's different with age, but it's the same idea. We add it to get to your 19th year. You add 18 of these life experiences.
Yeah.
He can't answer the phone while he's at work, so just a minute, okay? Sorry. Okay, so figure this out really quick. Did you get -117? Oh, cool. Somebody, Courtney, put it in the chat. Thanks. Okay, so now we know the 19th term. So we're going to put that right here. So the sum of the first 19 terms equals 19 times 9 plus -117, all divided by 2. Okay, so we do that in our calculator. I got -1026. Why would it be negative? Look at this pattern one more time. Positive number, negative, negative. What are the rest of them going to be?
Negative.
They all have to be negative because we're just getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. So all those negative numbers and those 2 positive numbers, those are weak sauce compared to all those negative numbers. So our answer turns out negative. Okay, does that make sense to everybody?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, are there any other questions, any other things you need my help with? Going once, going twice. For real? Nothing? Did you guys have a fun spring break?
Yes, I did.
Good. It was really fun to just not do school.
It was the best.
It was funny because I was like, we're still at home. We're still just doing the same old thing, but to not, I just refused to even look at my email, didn't open Canvas one time, just relaxed. It was great. Did you guys do anything fun? No? It's kind of tricky when you don't really get to go anywhere, huh?
Yeah.
All right. Well, if you guys don't have any other questions, I will end this video. Do you have any other questions for me? Nada? Okay. I updated your grades this morning, so things should be current. I think your All of your big ideas stuff is still available to you if you need to do any of it or fix any of it. If you have struggles with something, if you need me to resend you something, just shoot me an email and I will. And I think we'll probably take a little quiz this week on this stuff. Was that Callie?
What?
Did you have a question?
I just nothing. It's all right. So what day's the quiz on?
I think what I'll do is I'll make it available on Friday, but not due until like Tuesday or something. So you have time.
Awesome.
But it'll just be a little Canvas quiz that just has stuff for arithmetic and geometric sequences and arithmetic and geometric series. Which we should probably do another Zoom call to go over geometric series. I mean, it's kind of the same idea, it's just a different formula. So when I put that one out there, you guys just let me know if we need to do another Zoom to explain that formula, or if you're okay. Just let me know. Good?
Good.
Okay, I miss you guys. Go help your younger siblings, because that's the part of my life that's hard right now, is the older and the younger just fighting. It's a party. Go be kind. Go save the world. Love you guys. Bye.
Bye.